Okay, hello everyone. Any of you that are here, if you let me know how the sound is, I would appreciate that. If I'm too loud or too quiet, let me know and I can make some adjustments. We'll be getting started here in just a minute. I gotta get a couple more things set up. Let's get these. Cat has gone, the rat stance on the table. I like it. I like it. Let me find a couple links that we're going to use here. Well, maybe we'll find it in the Discord. Okay. And here we go. Okay. Copy the link. So, okay. This is what I'm going to look at first. After this, if there's a little bit more time, I will also go and work on the color sys library a little bit. If anybody here is in the CircuitPython weekly meeting, you might have heard that we were looking at changing an old CPython library over to color sys. So I started working on that last night. I got a little bit of stuff to do on the Sphinx documentation. So I might get into that depending on how long I spend looking at this. But before we really get going here, let me take a minute and do a quick introduction. So my name is Tim. I go by foamyguy online, most places like Discord and GitHub in particular. So the chat that you see on the screen here is the Discord chat. It's Adafruit's Discord in the live broadcast room. If you want to hang out, you can head over there. I will try to keep up on the Twitch chat as well, but fair warning, I don't have it as in front of me. I kind of got to click around to a few things to find it. So I do not always react to that one as quick as the Discord. If you want to get my attention quickly, the Discord is definitely the way to do that. So what is this stream going to be about? We're going to be talking about CircuitPython. CircuitPython, if you don't know anything about it, it's a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. And it's made to be very easy for beginners to learn how to start making programs and building electronic circuits that do things. So it's, one of the main benefits is that it's super easy to use, super easy to learn. I have been programming for a long time. I'm not necessarily new to programming at all, but I'm still very drawn to CircuitPython because it has very quick iteration. You can try out ideas really fast by just writing your CodePy file and saving it out on the drive, and it just automatically runs for you. So it's a really nice iteration loop. That's what draws me to it. But I love the fact that it's such a great tool for helping new folks get into programming and electronics as well. So CircuitPython is going to be what we are talking about during the stream. If you are interested in CircuitPython, if you want to help support the project, one way that you can do that is by purchasing hardware from Adafruit.com. Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York. They provide the financial backing for CircuitPython primarily. So Adafruit right here, Adafruit.com. This is their website. They have all kinds of different electronics, little hardware doodads, electronics, sensors, breakout boards, all kinds of stuff. NeoPixel, Blinky toys, pretty much anything you could imagine that's fun, they probably sell it. So if you want to support the project, head over there and purchase your hardware from them. This stream here is not like a paid endeavor. They're not paying me to stream. They're not paying me to say that. They do pay me from time to time to write guides and other software. So I do work for them. It is something that they have paid me to do stuff before. But this stream is not part of that. This is just me having fun. I like to stream. Just work on CircuitPython. I like hanging out with all of y'all. So that's what we're doing here. I think that's it for the normal intro. The other thing I will say is that today's a special day, right? We're on Friday evening. Normally this time would be for Scott to be streaming Deep Dive, and I would normally be watching that, but Scott has the day off today and is out skiing probably, so there was nothing else really going on, so I figured why don't I jump on for a little bit tonight, because I'll be messing with CircuitPython anyway. So that's what's going on tonight. I believe Scott's back to regular time next week, so I definitely will not be here. I'll be watching the deep dive stream. But I do normally stream on Saturday mornings. If you're interested in particular in me or the stuff I'm working on, you can find me Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Time or 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I usually will drop links in the live broadcast chat just like I did tonight. So if you want to hang out again later, tomorrow morning is your next chance. But beyond that, weekly Saturday morning is usually the slot that I'm on. Okay. With out of the way, I think we're going to go ahead and dive in. Let me check on the chat here, though. Okay. The boss is away. Yeah. So the thing I want to look at first is what I have pulled up on the screen here, which is this old Easy Bake Oven project. It's for, let me go to the guide also. It's for using a PyPortal to kind of attach it onto the side. I think of a toaster oven as the idea, or you hook it up near a toaster oven, and you basically use a relay to turn the electricity on and off to the toaster oven so that the PyPortal can basically be in control of when the toaster oven is on and when the toaster oven is off in order to try to make it reach the correct temperature for whatever solder paste you're trying to use or whatever device you are trying to solder onto. So I have not created one of these, although I did pick up a toaster oven from the thrift store maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I do kind of have my eye on this project for sure, but I have not actually made it yet. But the thing I'm going to be looking at today is not so much to do with really the soldering oven aspect of this. Today I'm going to be looking at the code and the application and how it draws on the screen, and see if there is any way that we can try to make it use less memory, because this forum post here is a person who is trying to run the Easy Make Oven code. They're trying to run it on a PyPortal Titano instead of the regular PyPortal, and they were running into memory errors. The memory filled up, and they got this error right here that says the allocation failed. We're not able to allocate any more bytes. So one thing is the PyPortal Titano, it has a larger screen. It's, I want to say like 480 by 320 instead of the regular PyPortal, which is, I want to say 320 by 240. I could be off on those numbers. I'm not 100% sure, but that's off the top of my head, I think. So one thing we'll look at is there anything in the code that's kind of like allocating space based on the size of the screen? If there is, then we would expect that that probably will take up more room on the Titano than it does on the regular PyPortal, due to the fact that it does have that bigger screen. The other thing I'll look at is you can see here in the stack trace that this is just using display text label. So one thing that I will try to do is swap this over to bitmap label and then measure the memory afterwards and see if there's any savings to be had there. Usually bitmap label is going to use a little bit less memory. There's been some discussion about fragmentation, which is not an area I have a whole lot of expertise over in the help with chat. So if that's something that interests you or something that you know about, definitely head over there and you can join a couple of folks who are talking about that over there. So again, I don't know too much into the real deep nitty-gritties of memory management, but I know kind of the high-level stuff, and I'm gotten pretty comfortable with display I/O. So we're going to just take a peek through the display I/O code and see if there's some optimizations that we can do to get this thing under the threshold so that it could run on a PyPortal Titano. One thing is I don't have a PyPortal Titano, so I won't be able to actually test this. We might try faking it on the regular PyPortal. I do have one of those, so maybe we can fake it on there and like artificially set the display size bigger or something like that to mimic the Titano. I don't know exactly how we'll test it. One thing we'll do though is just kind of like check the memory and print it out and see how we're looking. So let's dive in. Let me catch up on the chat. Looks like we got a couple folks coming in. Forcing a GC, yeah, we'll look at that as well. Maybe calling the garbage collector after we set up some of the stuff. We will look at that as well. So thank you for that suggestion. And let me go do some hellos to the folks who have popped up in the chat. Johnny, David G, Hugo, and maybe K-Match is around possibly. So hello to all of you. Yeah, here we go. I have a copy of the code already. I already downloaded this, so there's actually two files, calibrate and code.py. I'm mostly interested in code.py right now. Calibrate, there might be some room for improvement, but my guess is not quite as much. If we look at the code page, I want to say the calibrate is on here as well somewhere. Yeah, this one is calibrate. I don't think it does as much with the display. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, this is mostly connecting to the sensor, taking some readings, printing some stuff out here. It's got a for loop. But it's never like really even getting into display IO. It's not calling display.show on anything, so there's no groups or bitmaps or anything going on here. So this is probably not, there's probably not a whole lot we can do to help this. So we'll be looking in the CodePy, which is a little bit further down here. And the very first thing I want to do is just try switching this from label to bitmap label and see if that will save some memory for us. So I'm going to get mu loaded up here. These are my touch deck layers. Oh yeah, let me show. I've been loading up my touch deck. I got the case printed for it. It might be too big here. I got the case printed for it, and I've started making some icons and shortcuts there. You can see my design skills not quite as good as JP's, so I've got some relatively primitive looking icons, but I finally have started filling those in with the different commands I want to use. So that's what I had open there in mu. But we are going to be working on the PyPortal instead, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to close this. I'm going to see what's on my PyPortal. It looks like it's a test for the, what is that called? Flip input, I think it is. Flip input that Kmatch has been working on. That's a PR in the display.io layout library. So if I switch back to the camera here, that's what you'll see is going on there. If you're interested in that, check out that PR in the layout library. This is a really neat new widget that we are going to be having pretty soon. Keith, the EE, how are you? Very slick, thank you. It needs PWMIO. For the, Johnny, you mean PWMIO for the, for this thing, the Easy Bake Oven? Okay, so I'm gonna copy this code onto my PyPortal. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's just open this up in text. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, this is actually the code on the touch deck. So we don't want this. We want to load CircuitPy. I renamed the touch deck drive to be touch deck. That way I can tell it apart. It is kind of interesting. I have a CircuitPy.py file. I wonder what that's about. Let's open this though. Okay, this is the example that's showing on the camera. So we don't necessarily need this code. Again, the camera's back over here. We don't necessarily need this code though because it's in the PR. Although I guess I did change it a little bit. I have changed the size of some things, the text here, these buttons. Maybe I'll save a copy of it just so I do have it. Code flip input test or your simple test or something. Okay, so now we can override code.py. We can paste in this Easy Bake Oven code, or Easy Make Oven. One thing is I don't know if this will actually run without the sensor hooked up, so that's one thing we're going to learn pretty quick here. The other thing is that my terminal, my serial down here is actually set to the touch deck. And I need to get the serial for the PyPortal. Do I want to use TO or do I want to like try to unplug? Maybe I can just unplug and get them back in the right order. Let's try this. I'm going to unplug the touch deck. I'm going to unplug the PyPortal. I'm going to plug the PyPortal back in. Oh, nice. Johnny is running the Easy Bake on a Titano, so maybe once we make our changes, possibly Johnny could test for us and see if it's able to load on there. So I think this should now be the thing that's connected here. Yep. So, and I can plug this back in my touch deck here. And then I think that mu will just stay on the Pi portal as long as I don't unplug it anymore. So let's give this a try. We want to save this to get it to run. We almost certainly are going to be missing libraries and stuff. I haven't loaded up any of the stuff this needs. So, yep, MCP 9600. Let's grab a copy of that. But I already have a copy of the bundle. I have an automatic script that will just download it every morning for me, so I get the newest one downloaded automatically. I do use CircuitPython sometimes too. I know there's lots of work going on with that lately. And that's something I like to use as well because it's very familiar, a lot like pip, which I'm pretty familiar with. So I do use that a fair amount as well. But for right now, I'm just going to use my bundle that I have. I'm going to copy this over. I'm going to paste it in here. See if we're missing anything else. Yeah, pair programming. So we need a config.json, so I need to copy that out of the project still. If I have a program to connect to my other device, mu will have no other option. Oh, if I have something connect to, I see what you're saying, David. Yeah, that's a good idea. I could open TO or whatever and have it connect to the touch deck, and then it will just consume that connection. So that nothing else will grab it. Let me switch these around. I think it's best to put mu on the left because this camera feed does only take up the top half of the screen, and the chat is down here in the stream that you guys see. So let me do it this way. That way we're not covering up the code in the serial console. We need to grab config. So let's get that. I already downloaded this again back here. What is in this? Do we need to change anything? That's probably okay, hopefully. Let's just try it. CircuitPy, paste config. Let's see where that gets us. I don't know for sure if this code will run due to not having a sensor. So this says no directory profiles SN 63 PB something something. So again, let's go back to the EasyMake code folder here. And there is profiles already. I guess these are like the profiles of the part, like which thing you are soldering. So it says like what temperature it should be at what time or whatever, like how fast it should heat up and how slow it should cool down, and what temperature it should go to and stay within the range of. All of that stuff is in here, so we're going to copy those. Again, we don't have the toaster hooked up. We're not actually going to do any soldering yet, but the code, it looks like, is wanting us to have this stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, got our translate gang here. Okay, there we go. We're getting farther. Okay, fonts are next. We do have a couple of fonts in here. One thing we can try is also using PCF fonts. That's a new type of font that's supported in the Bitmap Font library. It will make it load faster. I don't know if it will make it use less memory though. I asked Jeff about it in the chat because I wasn't sure, and he was saying that he thinks it's probably going to end up using the same amount of memory still with PCF. It's probably worth switching anyway because it will load faster, but it may not actually save us any memory. So let's go to fonts. I already have a fonts folder. My guess is I might not have enough room to paste all of this stuff. Let's see though. I already have one of them. Can delete some other fonts if I need to. Okay. Melting point. So it does say temp sensor not available, and it does still keep going, and it is drawing everything. So this is awesome. This is probably going to be plenty for us to be able to take a look at the memory use here. So that's really cool. It's not, I guess, probably 100% accurate test, because maybe like whenever this sensor gets initialized, if it was actually connected, maybe it would use more memory because it would create an object instead of, I'm guessing it's probably none somewhere. So it's not 100% accurate test, and again, I'm on a regular PyPortal instead of a Titano, so that's another difference as well. But hopefully this is close enough for us to get an idea of what kind of improvement we can make. So first thing is, let me see how much memory is used just right off the top here. GC mem free, I think that's the right function. Maybe there's an underscore. Oh, I need to import GC also. Yeah, it's probably an underscore. There we go. So that printed right here, 82,096. I'm interested to do it again. Whoops. Let's put some other text in here as well. After imports, and we can do this. And let's do it again right before we go to the main loop. Should be down here somewhere. Did we pass it? Nope, draw profile. Bunch of labels. Creating a graph. Here we go, main loop. Before main loop. Can't even get it to start. Check to make sure you got the libraries, and then the other two things I had to do was that config JSON and that profiles. Oh, and the fonts actually too. There was 3 fonts. Okay. So wow, yeah, we definitely burned through a bunch of what we had there. So we see up here, we had about 83,000. Again, that's pretty close to what we had before. It's not exact, just because from time to time, like, you know, there's different stuff going on under the hood when it resets, so it's not always going to be the exact same, but it will typically be pretty close. So we got about 83,000 again here, and then right before the main loop, we are down to only about 7,500. So we used, what is that, 70 something? 76 or so thousand, which is quite a bit. And we have relatively little left, so if this thing does use any more memory in the main loop, or if there is anything about the screen size that does make it allocate more memory, I could see it being pretty darn close to causing that memory error. Need a CircuitPython update. Actually, I'm glad you said that, Johnny. I don't know, I don't even know what version I have. Okay, beta 4. That's, there hasn't been another new release yet, has there? I don't think so. Let me double check. I do want to make sure I'm on whatever is the latest beta. No, okay, beta 4. All right, we're caught up there. So let's try just going to Bitmap You know what? Actually, one more thing I'm going to do is I have no idea what version of display text is on my device. If you've ever watched any of my other streams, you know I do a fair amount of work on display text. So I pretty much always have some kind of weird version from testing out some PR or another. So it's going to be a good idea probably to explicitly go back and grab the one from the bundle. That way we know that we are definitely using the same thing that this person in the forums is using as well. I'm on the latest non-daily. Can we cheat on the number of colors in the display.io buffer? Yeah, maybe. That's one place to save memory for sure, like bitmaps. If you can make a bitmap that uses less colors, you can save some space that way. I had a quick peek through the code, and I want to say it was not using too many different colors, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look super close. That's one of the things we'll look at though during the stream for sure. Is I'll check at all the bitmaps that are created and see if there's room to shrink the number of colors in the palette. Okay, so I put display text. What else? Let me just take a quick look at the other libraries this uses and see if there's anything else that I might have a working copy of one. Maybe PyPortal, I do some display shapes. I don't think anything new has happened in display shapes in a minute. I do keep an eye on it, and I have done some reviews before. Bitmap Font, actually, let's do that. I know there's new Bitmap fonts, and I've been doing lots of PR testing with those. Is that a folder? Yeah. Okay. I'm probably good on the rest of these. Maybe PyPortal, actually. Let's do PyPortal also. I think maybe I tested... Honestly, it might have been the change to make PyPortal use Bitmap label. I think that happened relatively recently. PyPortal. Maybe that's in Portal Base, though. Okay. That should be good. If we run into any weirdness, then I can go back and get any of the other ones. There's really not that much more that's used. Shapes is the only, or maybe button, I guess, possibly. I could have a weird one, but we'll see. Shameless request. If you find... Katney's stopping by and says, if you find any Python, CircuitPython, MicroPython on hardware-related projects, topics, or news item, please send them to cpnews@adafruit.com. It finalizes on Monday because the newsletter comes out on Tuesday. So if you put it in, too close to Monday, then, it will probably come in next week. There's a link here in the chat if anybody's interested for what's in there for next week already, if you want a quick preview. And this is oh nice, this is the first one Katney's doing solo. So for those of you who might be not as involved in the community, Anne is usually the person at Adafruit that's been doing the newsletter lately, but Anne has taken some time off, so Katney is going to be taking over, and this is the first week that Katney's going solo, so that's awesome. There's been lots of great stuff in the last several newsletters, honestly. How's it going, Moto Time? Thanks for joining us. Okay. Yeah, I submitted a cool let's go through with the preview here. I'll show you one of the things I submitted this week was an asteroids game tutorial. Thought it was pretty cool. So it's maybe under PR still, yeah, right here, and then I'll pull up the page it was on. Files changed. I thought this was really cool though. It's like a tutorial that shows you how to make the game Asteroids, like the arcade game Asteroids, using Pygame. So if you're interested in Pygame, if you want to know how to make kind of like, basic physics, basic physics shooter type game where you're the little ship and you shoot the bullets at the asteroids and they break and you got to try to avoid them and all that kind of stuff, this would be a cool tutorial to check out. I plan on working my way through this. I've made asteroids in JavaScript before, but never Python, so I'm kind of curious to take a look at that and try out Pygame. I used Pygame in the Blinka Display.io Pygame display, but I've never actually used it just for making games. Alrighty. Where are we at here? So I copied all those libraries. We're just sitting in the REPL. Let's go ahead and relaunch the code, and we'll see if the memory is any different. I mean, it shouldn't be really that much different, unless I had some super weird stuff going on in my libraries, but let's take a look there. We got after imports 84,000 this time, so a little bit extra, but again, still pretty close to what it was before. And then same kind of thing here. We're down to like 6,800, so pretty close to 7,000 again. So let's try bitmap label here. Label, and we're gonna do it this way. So we kind of like import bitmap label, but call it label. That way, if later on in this code, there's gonna be stuff that uses this lowercase l label here, and now it will just switch. We don't have to go and find every single instance of that and change them all to bitmap label. So this is a little trick you can do just to switch back and forth real easily. So let's give this a try. Save that. Okay, 84,000. So really not that much difference in terms of the importing. But the actual, the labels that get created are where I would expect to save some. So yeah, before the main loop, now we're up to 16,000. So a little bit over double. We saw about 7,000 before, and now we're up to 16,000. So we got about double plus an extra 2,000 on top. Let's take a look through the code the rest of the way here and see if there's other things maybe we could optimize. So this is one thing I saw before. This is using the height and width here of the display. So we will take a look at where these variables get used, but I suspect those get used in the size of a bitmap, and if that's the case, yeah. Right here, in fact. So G width is width minus 100. G height is the display height minus 80. So it is based on the size of the screen. It's taken out 80 pixels X and 80 pixels Y and 100 pixels X. But then it's taken up the whole rest of the display from there. Yeah, so it's basically start at location 100 by 80 and then fill up the entire rest of the display. So if the display was bigger, then it would be a bigger bitmap. So let's see if we can fake the Titano screen size. Let's make sure it's 480 by 320. I'm pretty sure it is, but I mean, if we're gonna be putting it in here, we might as well like actually be certain instead of just guessing and then maybe accidentally doing it wrong. So let's find the product page. Yeah. It has a bigger 3.5 inch diagonal, 320 by 480 color TFT. Compared that to the original PyPortal's 3.2 inches, 240 by 320. So it is I said it the other way around, 480 by 320. I tend to do the landscape like orientation, so and that's the default orientation for display I/O on this device as well, so that's what we will use. And I think we can cheat by just taking these two lines and hard coding them. This will make it draw off the side of the screen, but I think that will not cause an error. And maybe we can see what the memory usage is. Starting up. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny has confirmed the size as well in the chat. There we go. So we probably didn't change again for right after imports, but yeah, 84,000. And then we did run out of memory, so memory allocation failed. CodePy line 546. Where is that? That is in the main loop. Gosh darn it. Sometimes this is hard to catch the size adjuster there. 546 is trying to assign a Boolean. Why would a Boolean be so many bytes, I wonder, though? Maybe that's not necessarily just the Boolean. Maybe it's other stuff it was doing as well. So we definitely did save space by using bitmap label. And we definitely did use more memory by having a bigger screen. We don't actually have a bigger screen, but we cheated and made the program think we do. So let's see if there's any way we could get this working still with the larger screen. Let's take a look at that bitmap where it gets created. One thing we might be able to do is, well, I can think of two approaches. We could either just limit the size of the graph, like say the graph, just say it's like not allowed to go the full size of the screen. Instead, like it's only allowed to be, whatever size it is on the regular PyPortal. We could just find the math for whatever size that is and make it go the same size. Yeah, it looks like that's what Johnny did, was just limit the size of the graph. So that's one thing. That's probably the easiest way to do it. It will leave the empty space on the screen, but if you wanted to, you could maybe move it around a little bit to fill up the space a little bigger. Another thing we could try, depending on what all's going on, we might be able to make the bitmap half of the size and then scale it up by 2. Theoretically, that should make the bitmap use like half as much memory, I think. But we will need to look at how it's used, because if there's a bunch of stuff drawing it and assuming that it's full size, then it would take a lot of updating the code to make it work with that scaled version. If there's only 1 or 2 things really touching this bitmap, then maybe it'll be easy enough to do. Another avenue I want to explore here is maybe getting rid of the PyPortal library. I think the PyPortal library, it's really nice because it's a super easy to use helper library for all the stuff the PyPortal can do. But I don't think we're not doing anything with the internet, for instance. So like anything that it imports that has to do with the ESP32 or requests or any kind of internet stuff, like we're not using that stuff. So if that's taking up space in memory, it'd be cool if we could have it not instead. This is the code for the Easy Make Oven. So, yep, David is alluding to the same thing I was thinking about, is like if we make that bitmap half the size, then we can put it in a group and scale it up by 2, so it will look the same, but it will actually have half as many pixels. So like, it would get a little chunkier. Let's find plot. One thing I want to try to do though also is maybe remove the PyPortal library. It's possible we can use just core APIs to do all the stuff the PyPortal library is doing, and then we wouldn't have to import it. So let's take a look. Let's take a look in here and see where else that this gets used. I might switch over to PyCharm. Yeah, this doesn't show me like at a glance all of that, so I'm going to switch over to PyCharm. I'm a little bit spoiled by all of the stuff this does for me. Downloads. Of course, this is not in. This is in alphabetical, so PyPortal, easy make. Go new window. So yeah, in PyCharm you can see on the, well, it's maybe hard to tell, but on the side over here it highlights the usages. So like when I click on plot, a few of these little highlights change, and that's telling me where the usages of this variable are at. So inside draw point, which is inside graph, one thing. Draw line. We might have a draw line implemented inside Bitmap tools or Bitmap itself now. There might be a way to do this without having this Python code here. I don't know, that probably wouldn't save us very much memory though, I don't think. Maybe speed though. So drawing the point. Does access x, y, y. So if we cut the bitmap in half, we'll also need to cut these range loops in half, I think. Let's see if there's anywhere else. Yeah, here we would need to do it for sure. I mean, I guess if we changed the G width and the G height to be the half size, maybe that's the way to do it. Because everything is already using G width and G height. So if we just make those half the size, then maybe everything else still works. And then as long as we put our graph into a group that's scaled by 2, it would still look roughly the same. Let's see, I got off a plot. I didn't see anywhere, only 6 usages, so that's a good sign actually. Okay, so our bitmap gets put into this tile grid, gets appended to the splash right here. We could make a new group for it. We could scale it by 2. Yeah, why don't we give that a try? So I think if we do this, subtraction first, and then divide by 2 and round to an integer. Whoops. Whoops. From PyPortal import. Yeah, that's one way to do it as well, is instead of importing all of PyPortal, try to import specific things. Not half, but quarter. Oh, because it's 2, yeah, divided by 2 in both orientations. That's a good point. PyPortal is using PyPortal base. Melissa made it reusing a bunch of boards. Yeah. Okay, so there is a way to have it skip the network stuff, so that's good. Maybe we should do that before we mess with the size, honestly. Yeah, I think let's try that, because that will not result in the code working any differently, I think. I'm pretty sure we can make the code work the same. Whereas this, like, it will definitely work differently. The bitmap will be half the size, so it will look chunkier. A quarter of the size. Yeah, half in both orientations, a quarter total. So let's see what kind of memory is used and see if there's really that much to gain. Why don't we try this? Before PyPortal, after PyPortal. Okay, I didn't have the serial console open and I missed it on the screen. So we get to restart. Yeah, portal base is the library that all the other ones use, PyPortal and magtag and all of them. I don't know, did this restart? No, there we go. Oh, I got stuck on the touch deck. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a bit. 208,000 before PyPortal, 113,000 after PyPortal. So that's like almost 90 or something. 90,000. That would almost double what we have available after all of that. That's another, yep, that's a really good idea as well, David. The fonts, there's 3 different fonts that are used in this project, and if you were to get rid of some of those, like, use 2 fonts instead of 3 or 1 font instead of 3, that would save some memory as well. Or even if you went to the built-in, like, terminal IO font, that would save even more, I think, because we wouldn't have to load any of those bitmap fonts. This looks promising, though, honestly. If we can save this, like, 80 or 90,000 here, by getting rid of PyPortal, that sounds like it should be a lot to use for other stuff. So let's take a look at what all the PyPortal is used for in here. I'm going to go back to PyCharm. I don't see a whole lot of highlights, so that's a good sign. 29. Well, there's probably a lot of comments with PyPortal in it. And it does lowercase as well, I guess, so. We created the PyPortal object. We added something to the group. I guess maybe the PyPortal object creates a group called Splash, and you can start putting stuff on it. So we'll need to make our own group. We'll need to get the display, like board.display, and we'll need to call show on our own group instead of relying on this one inside of here. But that should not be a big problem. This stuff will be a little more work. PyPortal.peripherals.speaker enable. That's just a pin, though, I think. I mean, we could use digital I/O and just read that pin. Audio, we would need to write some more code because this does have peripherals audio play. Let's try what somebody, Moto Taimo, let's try that. I wonder if we just import peripherals and then we can use that for all of our sound stuff. Okay, down here it's a bunch more splash.append, which, again, we can get around that just by making our own group, calling display.show on it. Another one here. And that's it. Okay, let's try that. Let's try doing it with just peripherals and see if that takes less memory. So, peripherals, but can you do that? I don't know. CircuitPython. Because would I still need the initializer function to use the peripherals? If so, then I'm not sure that we can save all that much. So this is a class with its own initializer. We do need the initializer, Mototimo says. Okay. So maybe we cannot reuse. Well, this doesn't extend anything. Let's try this. What if we did, let's import the peripherals object. So instead of this, let's go, I don't know how to spell peripherals properly the first time. Import okay, so I'm going to copy this out so that we can refer back to it. So this is going to crash, right? Because we don't have we're not importing the right thing anymore. But I'm just curious to see what the difference in memory is. Pretty much the same. No difference, really. Okay. So that won't really help us. But I think if we just get away from using the PyPortal object and instead use a group and calling display.show for everything that it's doing splash.append, and then we'll rewrite this code here that's playing tones or whatever this is doing, playing a wave file. Well, it's not a wave file though, because there's no waves in the project, so it's a wave that's in memory, I guess. It is a tone, yeah. Beep tone. Okay. So yeah, we can do all of this without the PyPortal helper library. And I think that's what we'll try to do. So where do we start? Let's go ahead and just get rid of this, get rid of this, and get rid of this. We're definitely going to need to have a group. I like to call mine main group. A lot of CircuitPython code uses the name Splash. Splash makes me think that it was meant to be a splash screen, which is like a screen that comes up while the thing is loading and then eventually goes away. That's what I tend to think of when I hear the word splash, so it's not really what we're doing in this project. This project doesn't really have a splash screen by that definition of the word, so I don't think splash is very descriptive for the name of our group, so I like to name mine main group. But you know, you will see, like, if you look at a bunch of CircuitPython code, you'll see that variable name splash used a fair amount for this concept of the group that holds everything. Maybe it has a different context. Maybe there's like another meaning or some other context that I'm not aware of. We don't need a string here. Max size. I don't know how many things are in this, but I mean, I guess it was never getting defined before. We could just go look in PyPortal. What does PyPortal do? Splash. self.splash. Only one match. It's probably coming from portal base. Graphics maybe. Yep, 15. So we know this code was working with this before and it didn't have a problem, so we can guess that 15 is probably going to be good enough for the size of the group. Let me catch up on the chat. We do need the initializer. Font, oh, I lost it. Font2.load glyphs with all the characters is a waste when it will only display wait and start. So let me go back to my PyCharm one, load glyphs. Yeah, so font2 here is loading every glyph, but is only showing two strings, the word wait and the word start. So theoretically we could cut out a bunch of these and just not load them, and they would never be needed. So that's maybe a way we could save some memory as well. Remove the sound. We could take the sound out altogether. That would definitely save. That would definitely save room. But if it's, you know, if that's 4,000 bytes, if we can actually carve out this PyPortal library, and if we actually do get back like 90,000 minus whatever it takes us to do the actual like digital I/O or whatever we need to do besides that stuff, like I think we'll be ahead quite a bit, and we'll still have a lot of room for the sounds. And I want to try to not change the functionality too much. So we could cut the sound out, and that would save some room. But I want to try and see if we can do it without changing the functionality at all. Just kind of like refactoring the code to be different. One thing we can do though, I am curious about those loads. So I'm actually gonna. No, we want to redo that. Let's put that back. No, I don't get to. Okay. 15. I want my import back for now, actually. This one. I don't know where it was at in the list. I'm going to do this. Let's see what we save by loading less of the glyphs. $10,000 to load all those glyphs. So maybe, yeah, if we remove the majority of those, we should get a decent chunk back. Actually, maybe we get like, I don't know. Let's see. We need, if it's going to do wait and start, we need a capital W and a capital S, but no other capitals. We need a little A, and a little I, and a little T, and a little R. I, R, T. Don't need any numbers. Font 2 equals font 1. You mean like just get rid of font 2 altogether? Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Maybe this is what you were trying to tell me. Here we go. So let's do that. Yeah, that was much less. We used only like 1,000 that time instead of 10,000. So that saves a lot. And actually we managed to run, we did manage to run with the bigger bitmap. My bitmap is still set at that 480 by 320, and we managed to run. We do only have 5K though, so like we are still getting pretty close to the limit. And especially since I don't have the sensor actually initialized, and especially since I'm not actually doing anything in the main loop, we want to try to shrink a little further if we can, because hopefully we want to leave some breathing room so that we're not just doing this again in a few months or whatever. That's awesome. Thank you for that suggestion. I think that was David originally, or whoever that was. If not David, thank you very much for suggesting the load glyphs. That's actually quite a big saving. We could probably do something similar with font 1 or font 3, because it does not look like you know, there's characters that are not used. We could maybe optimize by taking out the ones that are not used. Oh, bad and missing is font 2. I mean, it did save us a bunch though, so I think there's logic to load it if it's not preloaded. So preloading maybe makes it faster if you go to use it after the fact. Yeah, that might be the way to go actually. Especially like we could switch to PC. So this load glyph stuff, where is it at here? Oh, come on. This load glyph stuff is good for making your font render faster, but the thing is, I think we recently got the ability to use PCF fonts, which actually load faster anyway. Oh, we still want to do this. We just don't want to load glyphs. Yeah, let's try that way. So, you know, if like we decide that maybe without load glyphs, like it takes too long to load the font, we could always switch to PCF, and that would give us some speed back. So that's can maybe get a trade-off there, like take away the load glyphs but add the PCF font, and maybe it'll, you know, roughly even out to about the same usage. Yeah, that's actually pretty nice. We're up to almost 3 times right there, back to 13,000. I'm just gonna turn that off on both of these also. See where that gets us. We can convert those BDFs into PCFs and try those out. And, you know, again, I think that'll get us back the speed. Any speed we miss by removing those load glyphs, I think we could get back. Oh, I have less this time. Down to only 4,000 this time, where I was at 13 last time. Interesting. Why would it be that different this time? Why would it be that much more memory used? Let's just roll a dice again, see if we get the same thing roughly or not. Yeah, that's possible, Hugo. I'm not sure. Yeah, we could use the built-in font instead of font 1. Which, like, Open Sans doesn't even really look that different, honestly. No, we pretty much got the same. I don't know what was up with that 13,000 one. I mean, if I put these back, though? back up to 14,000. That is weird. I don't really have an answer for why that would be. I guess we'll leave the load glyphs on. Well, let's remove one of them. I don't know. That seems very strange to me. Another thing that will speed this up actually is in main branch right now. It's not in the beta 4, so it's not on my PyPortal right now, but in the main branch there is another enhancement inside of Bitmap or Bitmap tools, like read into, which can speed up the Bitmap font loading also. So that's another place where we could maybe gain some speed back. Try not using font 2 and replace every usage with font 1. I think that should do it, right? Nice. Johnny got the full graph showing by removing load glyphs. Yeah, I want to say, I'm not 100% sure, Hugo. I want to say it will load whatever's in the string. Although I don't know, maybe if the same glyph is used multiple times, it's bad about reloading it multiple times. I don't know. That could be. We ended up pretty much the same here. I was on 14.9 last time around. I'm on 14.4 this time, and that's without font 2 altogether. So it's really not that big of a difference, which again, like, honestly, that seems strange to me. I don't really know why that would be. Let's try this. Yeah, font 3 I do think is the largest one. They're basically the same. They're the same font in 3 different sizes, and I do think that 3 is the biggest one. Yeah, these the numbers in the name here is the size. So this is size 16 font, this is size 12 font, and this one is size 9 font. And that did give us back an extra like 5,000 or so. This is still really small, I think, compared to what we can save from getting rid of PyPortal. So for now, I'm gonna put this back. Gonna leave this in. I'm gonna leave this in, and I'm gonna work on trying to cut out the PyPortal stuff, because I really think we're going to get a big enough gain there that none of the rest of this stuff, like we'll be able to have all the rest of these fonts, even though like we could save more by cutting out the fonts. I think we'll have enough room to do everything that's being done if we can just cut out PyPortal. I mean, actually, we're already have enough just by the switch to bitmap label and taking out some of the load glyphs. I guess we do have enough, because I'm running at the big size. Again, it's not a perfect test. I think Johnny got his running on the PyPortal though, on the Titano, I mean. So I do think we have enough, but again, if we can get that big chunk back from the PyPortal, we should leave plenty of room so that there won't be any danger of running out soon. So let's start trying that. Cut out PyPortal. Interesting. This is already making a... This is already making a display group. Then why would it be appending to that pyportal.splash? Just gets shown once. Does this get called again? No. It seems like a useless group. I bet that maybe whenever this code was written, they made a group intending to start putting stuff into it, but then noticed that the PyPortal already has that splash group, and they just started using that instead, but never came back and took this out? I wonder how much memory a group takes. I have no idea. Whoops. Oh, I accidentally deleted it. Empty group to blank the screen. It would do that, I think. I took out my import though. I think I just got rid of this. Whoops. Hardly anything. So that doesn't really matter. It doesn't seem like it's being used. Let's watch the camera. Maybe we'll try it. Let's reset again. So we see CodePy output. It's still printing. There's it goes to black. And then eventually PyPortal Splash takes over. So let's see if it really looks that different without this. There's not very much memory being used, so it doesn't really matter if we take out this group, if it's... That looked the same to me. I didn't notice any difference. Again, was super tiny. It's only, you know, not even 100 bytes, but doesn't seem like it makes any functional difference with the actual program. So I'll leave it in, but commented. Maybe we can. I'll probably end up deleting it. It's not. Doesn't seem to be useful, even though it won't gain very much back. Alright, let's work on this PyPortal stuff. So we can no longer do this. We do want to have a main group. Or you know what? Why don't we just actually use display group as our main group? We don't need these. We already saw this is relatively small. So anywhere we have pyportal.splash.append, we want to change it to displaygroup.append. This would be way faster in PyCharm. Place this. There we go. And now let me try we're definitely going to come back and do something else here, but what if we just turn these off for right now? Almost got it running with load glyphs on font 3. No running today for the rain. Do we have anything else using PyPortal peripheral? Nope, doesn't look like it. So I think this will run now. I took out the initializer, I took out the PyPortal import, so we should have quite a bit less memory. Of course, this would not do any of the tones, so we do want to go back and fix that code I commented out and make it actually work. But this will tell us what we're looking at memory-wise, I think. I can pull the camera up. $7,000. That's still not really that much more, I guess, right? I mean, we were getting like 4,000, 5,000 on a few of those runs. I am kind of suspicious, I guess, about Control-C, Control-D. Maybe that's not clearing everything. I'm going to unplug, replug, see what happens. I don't really expect it to be that much different, but it's worth a quick try here. $7,000. It's pretty much, I mean, it's a couple extra thousand, but it's definitely not the like 90 that it looked like PyPortal was taking up with the import. Did I actually remove the import? Yes. So then the question kind of becomes basically like, we were seeing about 4,000 or 5,000 free before the main loop when we used the PyPortal. Now we're seeing about 7,000 if we change this code over to use core APIs. Will we use more than that 2,000 or 3,000 that it seems like is the difference by the time we actually get to the main loop? Yeah, that's something we'll do, Hugo, is the bitmap size. We talked about that a little bit. I want to try, though, without it first, just because if we can get it running, like, if we can get it running with the same functionality, then that's definitely the ideal case. And the functionality will be pretty similar if we do the scaling. It will look pretty much kind of similar, just more chunky, I think. But like a lot of these little single pixel dots or whatever, I don't know if these are single pixels or 4 pixels or whatever, but I don't know if all of that stuff is going to work out the same. And if at all possible, I would love to not change the functionality at all. Do we want to try to rewrite this code? Do we think that we will save more than like 2,000 or 3,000, or use more than 2,000 or 3,000 by basically rewriting all of this? I kind of doubt it, honestly. I think we're going to end up pretty close to the same place. I'm a little surprised. I don't know why. I don't know where all that memory went. Like when we were importing PyPortal, we saw it drop the amount of free memory by like 90,000. I guess maybe some of that gets freed up. So like we saw it take 80 or 90,000 to import, but maybe by the time it actually creates the object and gets down to the main loop, it's not actually using that full 80 or 90,000 anymore. It's able to clear some out. I don't know. It's weird though, because like if we just put this import back, this import's gonna be possibly taking that 80 or 90,000. You would expect it not to run. I have more this time by a lot, and I didn't even do anything different besides also importing PyPortal. That makes no sense whatsoever. Put the sound in a module. It is already in its own class, so it could go to a different file maybe. Does another module import most of the PyPortal library, or conversely, does PyPortal import a bunch of stuff other libraries import as well? PyPortal does import a bunch of stuff that other libraries import as well. That's true. Yeah, it's going to be importing like display text and shapes and bitmap font, touchscreen, display I/O. So that's true, I guess, yeah. We're importing a bunch of that stuff ourselves anyway. We can do that. Pretty much the same. Boy, that's really weird, right? Like 10,000 bytes difference? 10,000 bytes less by importing PyPortal and doing nothing with it? Am I like backwards? So mem free, the amount of memory that is still free, if there's less memory free, there's more memory taken. We're not backwards. Whew, I don't know. This is one of the reasons I try to stay out of memory management if I can. Quite frankly, one of the huge benefits of Python, and by proxy CircuitPython, and the language I do a lot of my day job work in, which is Java, big benefit of those is garbage collection automatically, right? Like it does that for you, so you don't really have to micromanage the memory if you don't want to, and I am a big fan of not micromanaging the memory. So I definitely don't have a whole lot of experience with it. I don't really know what all is going on under the hood. This seems really bizarre to me, though. This seems even more bizarre than normal weird memory stuff to me. Because I definitely don't understand how does maybe PyPortal calls gc.collect. What if we called gc, but all I did was import it. Could do that in the import, I guess, though. Well, let's run it again like this. I commented out PyPortal. So we're going to do it one more time just normal like this. So hypothesis, we think it's going to go down to that like 5 or so thousand. And then what I'll do is run a collect right before that. Maybe PyPortal is running collect for us, and that's why, but I mean that's all the way at the top. So yeah, this is at 6,000. So what if we do this? $10,000. We got some back. Whoops. What happens like this? gc.enable. It should be enabled by default, shouldn't it? Do you really have to call that? I've never called that before. We still got like that extra 10,000 though. Huh. Well, we definitely don't want to cut out PyPortal then, I guess, if using PyPortal somehow consumes less memory or frees more memory. I don't see why that would be, but it does look to be the case. And in that case, we don't want to get rid of it, I guess, because it's ultimately leading to less usage. We can try this. I'm almost positive this has got to be on by default, though. So we'll put it right before the first one of these prints. And I'll take a copy of this stuff. If not PyPortal, then import XYZ. It could be. I don't know of anything like that off the top of my head, but it could be doing something like that. Usually the stuff like that interacts with PyPortal is all going to be like PyPortal interacting with portal base, I could see portal base doing something like if PyPortal or if magtag or whatever. I could see that going on probably. This one didn't seem to make too much of a difference. I'm almost positive that enable has to be the default. In fact, we came up with the exact same this time, which is kind of weird. I'm almost positive this has to be the default. It doesn't say here, which it probably should, but I think that that's enabled by default. There's no harm in having it, but I really don't think it's going to change anything. So let's put this tone stuff back and see where we're at there. If we're still at like 20,000 free, then honestly, maybe we just call this successful and I'll go write it up as a response on that forum post. Okay, so PyPortal and PortalBase does have GC collect calls, which would explain maybe a little bit of why that's able to seemingly clear memory, although still odd to me that it's 10,000, because the only stuff that we do before this is import things. I wouldn't think there's a lot left over that we could collect already by the time that we're importing PyPortal here. So it's mad because we don't have an instance of the PyPortal object anymore. So we're going to put this right after the after imports one, and we'll put another one after it. So that only took about 3,000 to actually initialize the PyPortal. Yeah, we still have about 20,000 left. Interesting. I still can't say as though I understand how we're actually getting that, like, that much less usage with PyPortal. That still seems very bizarre to me. But I'm pretty confident that's what we're seeing, so it doesn't really matter why, and certainly doesn't matter if I understand why. But yeah, this seems good. Johnny, if you are still here and are interested in helping me out, I'm gonna put this in a gist and then put a link here in the chat. I would love it if you could try running this on your PyPortal Titano and let us know if it manages to load successfully or not. If you're not around or you don't have time for it, that's totally fine as well, though. I think that's the right URL, maybe. Yeah. Easy make reduced RAM. Alright, cool. Johnny says sure, create. Oh, I don't want a secret one. Why is the default to just secret? I never, ever, ever want to make a secret just, ever. I don't know why that's the default. Can I change it now that I've made it, or am I... doesn't edit? Update secret gist. Make public. Is it public now? I'm logged in though. Okay, hopefully it's public now. Let me know if this link doesn't work still. Okay, let me catch up on the chat too. Portal base does have GC collect calls. David linked us to PyPortal user interface sounds. Secret stuff. The Titano lacks a quick connector. Secret just help Microsoft find the good stuff. That could be. Oh, really? I didn't know that, Hugo. I thought Secret was. I thought it was logged in, like only the user who made it would be able to see it, and only if they're logged in. I didn't know that the URL was public like that. I agree with John. I think that's kind of misleading because I believe most people, if you tell them it's secret, they kind of are going to assume that only their user account can access it. Hopefully people aren't like going and making a thing, calling it secret, and then like sending the link to somebody, so hopefully it's not really going to matter that much, but it does seem a little bit misleading to me. Sweet. Okay, Johnny's ran on the Titano. It does have pretty much the same that I'm seeing. You got 19,000 free at the end there. I was seeing about 20,000. That's, I think, close enough though that we can pretty much just call that, there's going to be a little bit of a difference each time you run it. You've seen here, like I did Control-C, Control-D, and we get little different numbers each time. My touch deck doesn't have a speaker. Yeah, that would be cool if the Featherwing had a little speaker on it. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, this gets us, so, like a couple of folks have mentioned and we talked about before, there would still be a little bit more opportunity for improvement. Two different ways. One of them is simply just hard coding a smaller size right here. Like if you hard code whatever the size on the regular PyPortal is for the Titano. Johnny showed a picture of it running like that earlier. That would be one way to save a little bit more memory. The other way would be to basically make both of these sizes be like divided by 2, which will then make the bitmap be 1/4 the size, and then we would put that bitmap in its own group and we would scale that group by 2. So cut the bitmap down to 1/4 of the size and then stretch it basically to get it back up to the real size. So it'd be kind of like taking an image in Photoshop and like cutting it down to half the size, but then like stretching it back out. You would lose resolution, but you would have fewer pixels, so it should be less memory. So that's another way, theoretically, we could squeeze more out of this. But since this is running, I'm pretty okay with where we're at, I think. So I'm going to put these back, and I'm going to take out a bunch of my prints. And then I'm just going to write up a little bit about what I did. We'll probably PR this to the Learn Guide repo. Let me look at the Learn Guide. How much of the code is embedded versus just pasted? Let's just take a quick scan through this. Bus device could be removed. Maybe I was wrong earlier when I said this doesn't use the internet. Adafruit.io is definitely internet stuff. Is it really using it though? I don't think I saw that one get imported. Yeah, it's not using it. Okay, so these are just wrong. These need updated. The required libraries here are not accurate. It doesn't look like... Well, maybe they're required by... Maybe they're not required in the top level code, but they're like inside a PyPortal. That could be. If I delete it, does it still run? Hello, CircuitPy. What are we doing? Oh yeah, my computer does this sometimes. There we go. I don't know if I have Adafruit.io library. Whoops. I do. Does not work, and it is inside a PyPortal. Okay, so that's definitely true. You do need that, actually. Getting a little ahead of myself there. Let me put it back. New and improved, I'm sure, because I have no idea when the last time I copied that library was. So some of these are still probably needed. Bus device, I do think, could go away, because that's in the core now, I believe. Button, I don't know where button is getting used. Maybe there's a button somewhere in here, I guess. Still at 20,000, so let me cut out the rest of my prints, and then this is probably good. I'll PR it back to the Learn Guide repo. That's what I was doing. Getting off track here. I want to see how much of the code is embedded. Nice. 6.1 on the Titano, okay. Yep, remove all the prints, yep. Gonna do that. Okay. What was the fix that really helped? I think the biggest chunk that we saw was changing from... Well, we kind of did two main things. Changing from label to bitmap label. That seemed to save about like 10,000 or so, if I recall correctly. This is just from memory though, so I could be wrong. But I want to say, and again, like, I clearly don't understand how the memory works, right? Because this is still seems like should be impossible to me, the way that importing PyPortal leads to less usage. So take everything that I say about memory with a grain of salt. It's very possible, perhaps even very likely, that I am wrong about a bunch of my understanding. With all of that said, though, I think that switching to bitmap label saved us a good amount, like around 10,000 if I recall correctly. And I think that taking out the load glyphs, one of them, I believe we ended up just removing one of them, also saved us a good amount. We experimented with getting rid of extra fonts, which did also save us some extra, but it turns out we have enough. We can leave all the regular fonts in. But removing that one load glyphs, I want to say that was the other thing. Changing to bitmap label, and then, two actually. So we don't call load glyphs on font 1, and we don't call load glyphs on font 2. If I recall correctly, we saw something weird where when I removed the third one, we ended up actually using more memory again, though. So it's like kind of another one of those things where I don't really understand how that could be the case. Let's try it out, though. No. Okay. Was wrong this time, at least. Because that's 40,000. So that's actually quite a bit more again. Let me, though, do the whole restart, see if we get the same. Because that's another, weird thing that's been happening here. Sometimes I restart and I get a different number. Well, it's always, it's usually a slightly different number, but sometimes I'm getting wildly different. No, 40,000, okay. I don't know what I saw before. I thought when we tried this before, I had took all three of these load glyphs out and we ended up with a a lower number of free RAM. But right now we're seeing it right here live. It's definitely a bigger number. That gets us all the way back up to 40,000, which is a lot. So that's awesome. We'll leave that. We'll leave the load glyphs out. So yeah, those were the two main things: taking out the load glyphs and switching over to bitmap label. Between those two things, we got enough RAM left over that we are able to draw it on the Titano. I did switch my screen back to the small size, so this number here is not representative of what we would see on the Titano with the bigger screen, and therefore bigger bitmap with the way the code's written. 2000 looks scary. Yeah, that's pretty close. Looks like Johnny ran it a bunch of times and gave us the printouts. Oh, no, not ran it a bunch of times, but put a printout into the main loop. And it's getting close. It does get down to 2000. It looks like, though, that's the garbage collector running, honestly. It steadily goes down, like, so what's the highest one there? 15,007, and then 13,004, 11,002, 8,900, 6,000, 4,000, 2,000, and then all the way back up again to that 15,744. If it repeats those same numbers over and over again, then I think we're safe. I think that's just running through the normal stuff and then calling the garbage collector and getting right back to where it was. And so if those numbers repeat over and over, then I think we should be safe. Calling garbage collect in the main loop, that might be another way to save a little bit. What was I doing? Taking out prints. I did add this collect right here, right before the main loop. Maybe it would make sense to put it inside of here. I didn't touch anything in the main loop. Okay, so this one will not print any memory anymore. Except for this one. It does repeat the same, but we don't have the temperature sensor. Yeah, that's true. I don't have the temperature sensor set up either. I think we have room, though. I think even on those ones that were 2000, if it tried to allocate more than it had, I think it would run the garbage collector for us, and that's why we see that 2000 jump back up to 15,000 on the next iteration. Is I think it tried to allocate more stuff, there wasn't enough room, it called the garbage collector, that got it back up to the 15,000, then it was able to do its allocations and move on. You know, again though, definitely not an expert, very, very, very likely could be wrong or oversimplifying it or just misunderstanding it altogether. Very possible. Okay. This is looking good. I got all my prints taken out. We're still displaying. Yeah. I think this is back to how it was, pretty much. So I'm going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. Another few minutes here. One thing I want to do is look at the diff real quick. So let me do that, and then I'll probably wrap up after that. But again, if any of those folks, if you were not here at the beginning, if you didn't hear this or you don't know already, I do normally stream on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Time. So I will be done here in a little bit tonight, but I will be back tomorrow morning if you want more of this. Okay. Lord only knows what the name of this is. Let's look in the here. View. This is PyPortal Easy Make Oven. So let me go to master. pull. Loop is not time sensitive, it's controlling the oven on and off can be 0.1 hertz and it would still work. Yeah. P for PyPortal. So this will show us the differences for sure. What? Oh, spaces. Okay. Oh, there's going to be a lot of those, I guess. So it looks like PyCharm or Mu, one of the two, added spaces to some places for me. So yeah, here was one change, I guess, is I did leave this doing display group instead of that PyPortal splash. How did these things ever show on the screen if they were getting appended to PyPortal splash? Presumably PyPortal would have been calling display.show on its own splash, but if that's the case, why are we still seeing all this stuff which is in display group now? Because we're still initializing PyPortal again, so if PyPortal was calling display.show, it should be overtaking the display group? Interesting. I don't really know why we're still seeing the display group, or I guess to put it conversely, I don't really know why. Maybe it only calls show if you put something in splash. Yeah, Hugo did the math for us. Each one of those chunks is 2262. So then when it's at 2112, it doesn't have enough. It runs the garbage collector for us. I don't really need this line. Or this line. Or this line. Or this line. PyPortal was below, now it's up higher. Don't think that matters too much. Okay, so all of our changes all together. We brought in garbage collector, we switched to bitmap label, we moved the location of this initializer. I don't think that probably had any real effect. We switched to display group. At the end of the day, I don't really know if that saved us anything or not. The intention there was to try to get rid of using PyPortal altogether. We did eventually go back to using PyPortal, so I'm not sure if we really save anything with display group. I guess I could switch everything back to PyPortal.splash, but the code's still working, and we got a pretty good result. I don't know that it really matters too much. Don't need that empty line. Got a bunch of just like spacing, formatting stuff in here mixed in. Unfortunately, I probably ran like code format in my PyCharm here sometime. Do that kind of instinctually. Spaces. We can just take these out the rest of the way. We don't really need to leave them commented here. All right, yeah, there's a button. I'll leave the garbage collect at the beginning of the main loop there. Alright, so that's it. Yeah, switching to bitmap label, doing the display group, and then removing the load glyphs. Standard to have, oh, 2 classes, or 2 lines, yeah, that's true. In fact, why don't I can do Control-Alt-L, we'll do formatting in here. And truthfully, we need to run pre-commit or pylint or something. Or black at the very least, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I'm too far deep. There we go. We'll do that. That's probably would have got tripped by actions anyway, I think. So that did change a bunch of stuff around, but do we need to do that? I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't do that. That makes it it makes it a lot longer. Does it have actions on it? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have. It installs black. I'm guessing it probably runs black. I don't see anywhere where it says to run it, but it might be tied to pre-commit or something. I'm not 100% sure how this repo works. So we'll leave it like this with black ran. So I will not push this to Adafruit Master. Let me make a branch before I do anything else. Get okay, got a branch in my repo. This is the same diff. This says origin, which is good, because we want it to push the foamyguy. I still need to go through and change these all to foamyguy, but I haven't yet. Okay, that's pushed. I'll probably make a PR for it soon, but I think we're gonna cut the stream off here. Let me catch up on the chat, and then we'll say goodbyes. If it functions like it does in Python standard lib, calling GC collect frequently has a time cost. But when it's collecting megabytes instead of gigabytes, it might not be that big of a time cost. That's a good thing to keep in mind. Maybe putting it in the loop we don't want, although that's where Johnny was saying it doesn't really need to go that fast because it's flipping the relays that go to the mains power that the toaster is plugged into, so those relays can only go so fast anyway. That was our math that Hugo did for us. Only runs at 1 megahertz, or 1 hertz, excuse me, 1 megahertz. Alrighty, Dexter Starboard, thanks for hanging out. I don't remember if I said hi to you, but if not, hello and thanks for hanging out. Moto Timo, thanks for coming as well. Got the Titano yesterday. Nice, Johnny just got us by Titano. That is lucky. Okay. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Again, this has been a stream about CircuitPython. My name is Tim, foamyguy, and if you are interested in this kind of stuff, if you want to see more of it, then come back to the same place in the chat, Adafruit Discord chat room tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, and I'll be back doing some more stuff. I won't be working on the same thing, but I will still be working on CircuitPython, so it will be related to the same thing, just not this easy make oven. So until then, I will see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.